Hey friends, this is our lesson on word parts, and we're going to talk about the 4 basic word parts we use to build medical terms, as well as what those prefixes, suffixes, word roots kind of mean and are for, and talk about how we can use those word parts to put words together, but also to break them apart so we can define and understand words. So, in the language of medicine, most of our words, our medical terms, come from ancient Greek or Latin. And even though those words have certain meanings in Greek and Latin, we still put them together to be able to describe modern medical discoveries. And so, an example might be the word part or the suffix tomi means cutting. And nowadays, we have a career or a procedure called phlebotomy. And so that's when we draw our blood. So a phlebotomist is somebody who does that. And it technically means an incision into a vein, right? We have that cutting. And so even though we don't really think of drawing blood as cutting, it's still cutting into a vein. And so we use that to kind of help us create those words. So medical terms from here on out are going to be the larger kind of compound words that have word parts put together. I know we're saying word a lot. So an example would be that the word microscope is a medical term, okay? And the word parts micro and scope, one is a prefix and one is a suffix that mean, when we put them together, a viewing instrument for small things, okay, a microscope. And so we can get meaning for that larger word, that medical term, based on the word parts. Okay, so like I said, understanding the word parts can both help us create words, but also help us break it down so that we can define and understand them. There are 4 basic word parts that we're going to talk about. The first one is the word root, and this is the part of the word that has its most basic meaning, and it usually doesn't have a hyphen on either end of it because it's just solid, it's itself. And usually these word roots indicate our body parts or our systems, like the word part dent means tooth, like your dentist is a tooth doctor, or gastra means stomach, so like gastric acid would mean stomach acid. We then have word parts that we can put at the front or the back of a word. And so our prefixes are word parts attached to the beginning of a word. And usually these help us indicate a location, a direction, a quality, or a quantity. So for example, the word prefix actually has a prefix in it. And so pre means before, so our prefix goes before the word root. Okay. The suffix, again, is now attached to the end of a word or a word root. And these can help us indicate if a test is happening, a procedure, a specialty, like something that somebody studies, a function, or maybe a disorder. So, for example, if we put the suffix pathy at the end of a word, that tells us that it's a disease or a disorder. If it's a specialty, if I put the word ist at the end, the suffix ist at the end of something, like a dentist, that tells me that they specialize in teeth. Okay, a procedure, I might use the word scopy or the suffix scopy. So, like a colonoscopy has that word part in it, and that is a viewing of our intestine or our colon. Okay, so adding these word parts can give us more meaning than just that word root. Now, when we have our 4th word part, this word part doesn't actually change the meaning of the word root, of the prefix, or the suffix. It's purely helping us say words better so that it doesn't sound really awkward. So the combining form is when we take the word root and we stick on an extra vowel. And so we do this between the word root and the suffix. We don't have to stick a combining vowel in between a prefix and a word root, just a word root and a suffix. Okay, so usually we show this by using the word root slash and then a vowel. So for example, cardi is a word root that means heart. And if I were to write it in the combining form notation, I would say cardi slash O. So that if I were to put a suffix on the end of cardi, I could use that combining vowel. Okay. However, if a suffix begins with a vowel, we don't have to stick in an extra one. So we only want a combining vowel in between a word root and a suffix if they both start and end with a consonant or not a vowel. If there's already a vowel in there, then we're good and it's going to sound okay when we say it. So let's talk through some examples of that. We have larynx, which is kind of like your voice box. And then we have scope. And both of these have a consonant at the end and beginning. So we're going to stuff in that combining form vowel, and we have laryngoscope. Okay. Same thing. We have consonant, we have nose, and this is like a surgical repair. So a rhinoplasty would be like a nose job. Okay, again, we have that combining vowel in there. Again, another one, ner and pathy. This is your nerves or your nervous system. Pathy means disease. So neuropathy, I use that combining vowel in between the two consonants. Okay, here's an example where we don't need a combining vowel because we already have vowels on the end and beginning of these words. We can just smash them right together and we have cardiology. Another example of that, this one we have a prefix in here too. Okay, N is a prefix. Here's our suffix and then our word root. Okay, so that's our root word. So here we have a consonant, but we have a vowel over here, so we can smash those two together without adding that extra combining vowel. So we would have cephalitis. And then remember, our prefix doesn't ever need a combining vowel, whether it has two consonants or a vowel, it's okay. So we just smash that one on too, and we get encephalitis. So now that we've talked about this, there are certain words in our medical language that can't really be broken down into word parts. They come from ancient Greek or Latin, and they have a meaning that we kind of just transpose or we make new into our common language. So for example, actually the word medical means to heal in its original language, but nowadays we use it to refer to anything relating to medicine or healthcare. Okay, similarly, the word patient originally meant to suffer or to undergo, but now it just means somebody who's receiving medical or surgical care. We don't really say that someone's suffering all the time. So when we have a big word and we want to break it down, I always will recommend starting with the suffix, okay, because we know that there's going to be a combining vowel in there. It's easier to find. And then after we've found the suffix, we can go back to the front of the word and try to find the other word parts. So here's an example. And in this word, I can see that there's a vowel right here. And I know, because I've studied this, that itis is a suffix. Okay, and so from here, I can go back to the front of the word, and I know endo is a prefix. And then I know that card is a root word, okay? And so endo means within, card means heart, and then itis means inflammation. So if I were to break that down, I could take a guess that this word, endocarditis, means inflammation of the inside of the heart or something like that, okay? Which is what it is. Another example is the word hemorrhage, okay? And so the word part raj is a suffix that means to flow profusely or to discharge. And the word part hemo is a root word that means blood. And so if I am flowing profusely of blood, this probably means bleeding profusely. So I can use that to help me understand it. And obviously, we haven't learned all of our prefixes and suffixes yet, so we might not be able to fully do this yet, but as we continue learning them and learning our root words, that's going to become something that you can do to understand words, but also to create new words that you might not have known specifically, okay? So this is really important because in healthcare, a lot of people die every year because of medical errors or drug reactions. And usually that happens because people are not communicating well and clearly, whether that's written or verbal communication, not understanding the difference between hyper and hypo, or different abbreviations that might be used in healthcare can cause really bad things to happen to our patient if we're not careful. So the more you can understand these and pay attention to the detail in them, the better care that our patients receive.